All right, let's be real for a second. How many times have you just sat there, biting your tongue, faking a smile, while someone crossed a line you knew shouldn't have been crossed? Maybe it's a friend making jokes that sting, a family member trying to guilt trip you, or even a boss who just has zero respect for your time. Whatever it is, we all know what it feels like to tolerate things that just don't sit right. Now, I want to share a story with you. Picture a young woman named Clara. Clara's known in her town as the go-to person. She's kind, she's helpful, always ready to lend a hand, and people love her for it. But over time, Clara started noticing that some people were taking her kindness as an invitation to push boundaries. A neighbor would constantly ask for favors, never a thank you in sight. A friend was always criticizing her decisions, making her doubt herself. Even at work, her boss wouldn't acknowledge her hard work, making her feel like she was invisible. One evening, after another long, exhausting day, Clara decided to take a walk to clear her head. She found herself in the forest, where she met an older woman who looked wise beyond her years. Clara poured out all her frustrations, and the woman listened patiently. Finally, she said, "There are behaviors you should never tolerate, no matter how kind-hearted you are. Respect isn't something you just hope people will give you. It's something you have to stand up for." That was it, a light bulb moment for Clara. The very next day, she started setting boundaries. She told her neighbor she couldn't keep helping without mutual respect, told her friend that her decisions weren't up for critique, and started standing up for herself at work. And little by little, her world changed for the better. That story shows us something important. It's okay to be kind, but it's also okay to stand up for yourself. So today, let's dive into the 10 behaviors you should never tolerate from anyone, because protecting your peace and self-respect, that's priceless. 1. Lack of respect. All right, let's start with something we all need but don't always get: respect. Now, respect isn't something you should have to fight for constantly. It's basic, it's fundamental, and your dignity, that's absolutely non-negotiable. But the reality is, respect doesn't always come easy. In fact, some people act like they're doing you a favor by treating you decently. Sound familiar? Imagine this. You're in a meeting at work, you've put in hours on a project, and you're finally presenting it. But right as you're explaining your ideas, a coworker cuts you off, completely dismissing what you've said. They might not even mean to be harsh, but over time, these interruptions and dismissals start to make you feel smaller. And here's where the Stoics offer some wisdom. While you can't control what others say or do, you have full control over what you accept. So, are you going to let people decide your worth for you, or are you going to make it clear that respect is non-negotiable? Let's dig a little deeper into those jokes we hear from friends or family. We all know them, the kind that sting a little too much. Maybe it's a friend who jokes about your goals in life, like saying, "You really think you can handle that? Good luck." They might laugh it off, saying, "I'm just messing with you." But if you're the one biting your lip, trying not to let it get to you, that's a sign something isn't right. The Stoics remind us that each time you let disrespect slide, it chips away at your confidence. Epictetus said, "Know what is yours and what is not." Your sense of self-worth, that's yours. And allowing disrespect is, in a way, handing over some of that worth. But maybe it's not just friends or co-workers. Sometimes, even close family members can cross the line. Let's say you're excited about a new opportunity, and you're telling a family member about it. Instead of encouragement, you get hit with something like, "I just don't want you to be disappointed," "Are you sure you're ready for this?" They frame it as concern, but underneath, it feels like doubt. The Stoic way to respond isn't about being defensive or shutting them out. It's about calmly but firmly standing up for yourself. You might say, "I appreciate your concern, but I'm confident in my choice." Respect, in its simplest form, is a two-way street. Just as you offer it to others, it's something you should expect in return. The Stoics believed that true strength lies in knowing what you stand for and holding your ground. If someone can't give you the basic respect you deserve, that's a reflection on them, not on you. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If you keep tolerating disrespect, those little comments and offhand remarks can slowly poison your mind. Respect yourself enough to set boundaries and let people know where the line is. The truth is, you have a right to stand up for your dignity, whether it's in work, friendships, or family. Boundaries aren't about being rude or shutting people out. They're about protecting your peace. So, the next time someone disrespects you, you don't have to be confrontational. A calm, direct response often works wonders. You could say, "I don't find those comments helpful," or even, "Let's keep things respectful." It doesn't have to be a big deal, but addressing it sends a clear message. And don't think that holding people accountable for respect will push them away. In fact, most people will respect you more when you set clear boundaries. It's a form of self-respect that they can't ignore, and if they do take issue with it, then maybe they're not the people you need in your inner circle. The Stoics would say that it's far better to walk alone with dignity than to walk with a crowd that doesn't value you. So here's the takeaway. Respect is something you give and expect in return. When you stand up for yourself, you're teaching others how to treat you. Each time you let someone walk over you, it sends a signal that you're okay with being overlooked. But each time you stand up, even if it's just a small comment, you're reinforcing your own value. Remember this, your worth isn't up for debate. As Epictetus would say, the opinions of others don't define you, your actions and responses do. So, hold that head high, keep that dignity intact, and don't be afraid to walk away from those who can't see your worth. You deserve respect, plain and simple. 2. Emotional manipulation. Let's talk about emotional manipulation. It's one of those things that's hard to spot at first, but once you do, it's impossible to ignore. Have you ever had someone make you feel like you're constantly at fault, or that you're somehow responsible for their happiness? This is what emotional manipulation looks like: subtle, sneaky, and, let's be honest, exhausting. Picture this. You're friends with someone who always manages to shift the blame onto you. No matter what happens, it's always somehow your fault. They say things like, "If you cared about me, you would have," or "I can't believe you didn't think of how this would affect me." Over time, these comments start to weigh on you, making you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells around them, afraid of setting off some unseen tripwire. The Stoics would see this kind of manipulation as a violation of your peace. According to Stoic philosophy, your emotions are your responsibility. No one should have the power to make you feel guilty or ashamed for things beyond your control. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, once said, "No one can hurt you without your consent." Emotional manipulation works by getting you to hand over that consent, letting someone else's feelings dictate your own. Now, emotional manipulators are masters of guilt tripping. They'll say things like, "After all I've done for you," or "I guess I just mean less to you than I thought." These statements hit you right in the gut, making you feel like you've somehow let them down. But here's the reality. That guilt is a tool they're using to keep control. The Stoic approach is to separate yourself from that guilt, to understand that it's not your job to manage their feelings. Think of it this way. You wouldn't let someone take control of your finances or health without permission, so why let them control your emotions? Next time someone tries to guilt-trip you, take a step back. You could say something like, "I'm sorry you feel that way, but I can't take responsibility for how you choose to react." It's a firm but respectful way of setting boundaries without letting them pull you into their emotional drama. Manipulators also love to make you feel small. Maybe they point out your flaws under the guise of just being honest. They might say things like, "I'm just telling you this because I care," but what they're really doing is breaking down your self-esteem. The Stoics would remind you here that your value isn't based on others' opinions. Marcus Aurelius said, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know the truth of who you are." Don't let manipulative comments change how you see yourself. Stand firm in your own truth. Then there's the classic silent treatment. Manipulators' go-to move when they want you to feel bad without even saying a word. It's frustrating and leaves you feeling like you've done something wrong, even if you haven't. When this happens, remind yourself that their silence is their choice, not your fault. The Stoic approach here would be to stay calm, resist the urge to apologize, and let them work through their emotions without dragging you down. You're not responsible for breaking their silence. In relationships, manipulation can look like someone constantly testing your loyalty. They might make you prove your dedication by putting you in tough situations, saying things like, "If you really cared, you'd do this for me." But Stoic philosophy reminds us that love and friendship aren't tests. They're based on mutual respect and trust. Don't fall into the trap of constantly proving yourself. You might say, "I don't feel comfortable with these kinds of tests," and stand by it. The best defense against emotional manipulation is self-awareness. Start by asking yourself, how do I feel when I'm around this person? If you're always anxious or second-guessing yourself, that's a red flag. Being around someone who values you should bring out the best in you, not leave you feeling drained. Here's the takeaway. You don't owe anyone your emotional stability. It's yours to guard, yours to maintain, and no one should get to mess with that balance. If someone is constantly pulling your strings, set boundaries, and don't be afraid to keep your peace a priority. Because at the end of the day, true respect and care don't come with strings attached. And anyone who truly values you won't need to manipulate you to feel secure. 3. Physical or verbal abuse. All right, let's make one thing crystal clear from the start. No one, absolutely no one, has the right to treat you poorly, whether it's physical or verbal. This isn't up for debate. Physical or verbal abuse isn't just crossing a line. It's trampling over everything you deserve as a person. Yet, for one reason or another, many of us have been taught to put up with it, to swallow the insults, or even worse, to excuse physical aggression as a one-time mistake. Let's start with the obvious one, physical abuse. If someone uses any form of force, pushing, grabbing, hitting, or anything that makes you feel unsafe, that's a red flag the size of a mountain. Some abusers will try to brush it off with excuses like, "I lost control for a second," or even worse, "I did it because I care so much." You deserve respect, not rationalizations that try to excuse inexcusable behavior. As Marcus Aurelius would say, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy, so don't let their actions lead you down the path of compromise. Walking away from someone who can't respect your physical safety isn't weakness, it's strength. Then there's verbal abuse, which, while less visible, can leave just as many scars. Verbal abuse often comes dressed up as honesty or tough love, but if the words make you feel small, inadequate, or worthless, that's abuse, plain and simple. Maybe it's a friend who jokes about your weight, a partner who points out every mistake, or a family member who never misses an opportunity to remind you of your flaws. And here's where the Stoics would step in. Your dignity isn't defined by what someone else says. Epictetus taught that we don't have to accept every belief others try to impose on us. You have the power to reject their narrative and hold on to your own sense of self. Now, let's get specific. Imagine you're in a relationship and your partner uses hurtful words, calls you names, or criticizes every little thing. At first, you might brush it off as them having a bad day or not meaning it. But over time, these verbal jabs start to pile up, leaving you feeling small. And Stoicism would tell you that each of these moments is like giving away a piece of your dignity. You might say, I understand you're upset, but I won't accept being spoken to like this, and then hold firm. By setting this boundary, you're standing up for your value. But let's not forget the more subtle types of abuse, like psychological manipulation, which can make you feel like you're losing grip on reality. Imagine someone constantly twisting situations around, leaving you doubting your memory or your own perception. This tactic, known as gaslighting, is designed to weaken your sense of reality, making you more dependent on the abuser. The Stoics understood that mental clarity is essential, so when you feel yourself being pulled into someone else's emotional chaos, remind yourself of your truth. You are not responsible for carrying the weight of someone else's insecurities. Setting boundaries against abuse, whether physical or verbal, can be challenging, especially if it's coming from someone close. Maybe it's a family member who teaches you lessons with harsh words, or a partner who just gets a bit aggressive when they're stressed. But Stoicism emphasizes that true strength lies in valuing yourself enough to demand respect. You don't have to bear the burden of someone else's anger or stress, and it's okay to walk away from people who treat you like you're less than. If you're dealing with verbal abuse, try responding calmly with something like, I won't tolerate being spoken to like that. It might feel uncomfortable, but asserting your boundaries is a powerful way to reclaim your worth. You're not being mean, you're showing that your self-respect isn't up for negotiation. Seneca put it simply, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Abuse in any form does the opposite. Remember, the Stoics would remind you that respect for yourself is the highest form of self-care. Walking away from an abusive situation doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. And life's too short to spend picking up the pieces of your self-worth every time someone disrespects you. Hold on to your dignity, speak up, and remember, respect isn't just something you give, it's something you have the right to demand. 4. Dishonesty. Let's talk about honesty, or rather, what happens when it's missing. Honesty is the bedrock of trust, and trust, that's the foundation of every meaningful connection you have. But what happens when dishonesty creeps in, whether it's through small lies, broken promises, or outright deceit? It doesn't just damage the relationship, it messes with your peace of mind. And the Stoics would say that your peace of mind isn't worth sacrificing for anyone. Imagine you have a friend who just can't seem to keep their stories straight. Maybe they change the details to make themselves look better, or conveniently forget to tell you things when it suits them. At first, it seems like harmless storytelling, but over time, you start doubting everything they say, constantly wondering if they're actually being straight with you. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic thinkers, would tell you that honesty isn't just about not lying, it's about living with integrity. And when someone can't give you that basic respect, they're showing you they don't value the same principles. Then there's the white lies approach. You know, those little lies people use to avoid conflict. Picture a family member who constantly promises to show up for you, but never actually follows through. They'll say, "Of course, I'll be there this time," but you already know they're going to back out at the last minute. These small lies might seem harmless, but each broken promise is like a tiny crack in the relationship, and eventually those cracks add up. The Stoics would argue that these lies damage the soul of a relationship. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." In other words, don't let yourself become comfortable with dishonesty. But dishonesty isn't always so obvious. Sometimes it comes in the form of self-deception. Someone avoiding their own issues and making you the scapegoat. Maybe you have a co-worker who messes up a project but subtly shifts the blame onto you. Or perhaps a friend who refuses to face their own insecurities but points out yours as a distraction. This kind of dishonesty is rooted in their own lack of accountability, and the Stoics would say that while you can't control their actions, you can refuse to accept the blame they're offloading. In situations like this, the Stoic approach is to stay anchored in your truth. If someone tries to make you doubt yourself with their lies or manipulation, ask yourself what you know to be true. Epictetus taught that what's most important is how you respond, not how they try to influence you. You might say, "I understand that you have your perspective, but I'm confident in my understanding of what happened." It's a subtle way to reject their narrative without getting pulled into an argument. Another common form of dishonesty is when someone withholds the truth. Picture a partner who's hiding something important from you, claiming they didn't want to worry you. But instead of sparing you stress, this only adds to the distrust, making you feel left out of decisions that impact you both. Stoicism would encourage you to address this directly. You might say, "I value honesty, even if it's uncomfortable. I'd rather know the truth than be left in the dark." By setting this boundary, you're letting them know that honesty isn't optional in your relationship. The Stoics believed that life is too precious to spend it in a state of doubt or suspicion. Seneca said, "Trust, like a vase, once broken, can be repaired, but the cracks will always be there." If someone is constantly dishonest, it may be time to reevaluate the relationship. This isn't about being harsh, it's about preserving your own mental clarity and integrity. Choose to surround yourself with people who value transparency, not those who twist the truth to fit their narrative. When you consistently allow dishonesty, it doesn't just affect your relationship with that person. It starts affecting your relationship with yourself. You begin second-guessing your own instincts, wondering if you're being too hard on them. But trust your intuition. It's often wiser than you realize. Life is too short to constantly question the truthfulness of the people around you. The Stoics would say, focus on what you can control, which includes who you let into your inner circle. So here's the takeaway. Honesty isn't just about words, it's about respect. If someone constantly lies, manipulates, or hides things from you, they're not valuing the same things you do. Boundaries around honesty aren't about cutting people off. They're about making sure your peace isn't built on shaky ground. Stand firm, demand transparency, and remember, you deserve people in your life who respect the truth as much as you do. 5. Excessive control. Let's talk about control. We all have those people in our lives who feel the need to tell us how to live, who to spend time with, what career moves to make, and even what we should be feeling. This might come across as helpful advice, but let's be real. There's a big difference between guidance and control. And the Stoics would say that your life is yours to navigate. It's not anyone else's to dictate. Imagine having a friend or family member who always has to be in control of your decisions. You're excited about a new job opportunity, but they immediately question it, saying things like, "Are you sure that's the right move?" Or, "I just don't want you to make a mistake." They might frame it as concern, but over time, these concerns feel more like subtle attempts to control your path. Stoic wisdom tells us that while we can seek others' input, no one should have the final say over our choices except us. As Marcus Aurelius put it, waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. Now, excessive control can often appear in relationships, especially when a partner starts dictating where you can go, who you can hang out with, or how you should be spending your time. At first, it might seem like they just want the best for you. But soon enough, you find yourself constantly second-guessing every decision, wondering if it'll upset them. Here's the Stoic approach. Your life is your domain. Letting someone control it only limits your growth and freedom. You could say, "I appreciate your concern, but I need the space to make my own decisions." It's a gentle way to establish boundaries without creating tension. In the workplace, control can look like a boss or co-worker micromanaging everything you do. Instead of letting you approach tasks in your own way, they insist on overseeing every tiny detail, making you feel stifled. Stoicism teaches us that true fulfillment comes from personal autonomy. Epictetus reminded us that we should focus on what we can control, and that includes our own process, not someone else's expectations. If a manager or colleague is overbearing, try discussing your preferred work style calmly. You might say, "I work best with a bit more freedom. Is it okay if I handle this my way and check in with you as needed?" By standing up for your workflow, you're protecting your sense of control over your work. Sometimes control comes from a place of insecurity or fear in the other person. They might feel better when they're calling the shots, or they worry about losing you, so they try to manage every aspect of your life. This behavior, while understandable, isn't your responsibility to fix. If someone's control issues are constantly affecting you, it's okay to take a step back and remind them, and yourself, that you're capable of making your own choices. Let's not forget the subtle ways people try to control us through emotional tactics. Maybe you have a friend who only reaches out when it's convenient for them, expecting you to drop everything at a moment's notice. Or perhaps a partner who guilt-trips you into cancelling plans with others to spend time with them. The Stoics would remind us to hold on to our independence. Real love and friendship aren't about control, they're about mutual respect. You might respond with something like, "I want to spend time together too, but I also need balance." It's a way of reaffirming your own needs without rejecting theirs. And here's the thing, control often leads to resentment. If you keep letting others dictate your life, you'll eventually start feeling trapped. Stoicism teaches that our lives are ours to shape. When someone's control keeps you from growing or exploring, it's time to set boundaries. Marcus Aurelius believed that true strength lies in knowing what you will and won't tolerate. If someone's trying to micromanage your choices, respond with calm confidence. Let them know you value their input, but that your life is yours to live. Excessive control isn't just frustrating, it can be draining. Having someone constantly question or manage your choices leaves you feeling less sure of yourself. But the Stoics would say that real growth comes from embracing independence, making mistakes, and learning from them. Each time you set a boundary against control, you're not just standing up for yourself, you're giving yourself room to grow. So here's the takeaway. Life's too short to live under someone else's rules. People who truly care about you will respect your choices, even if they don't always agree. If someone's constantly trying to steer your life, remember that it's okay to take the wheel. Your life is yours to live, and setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish, it makes you wise. 6. Humiliation. Let's talk about humiliation. It's one of those deeply hurtful behaviors that can sneak into relationships and interactions under the guise of humor, criticism, or even advice. But no matter how it's packaged, being made to feel small, inferior, or unworthy is something you should never have to tolerate. The Stoics were clear on this. Your dignity isn't something anyone should have the power to take away. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And reacting with strength sometimes means refusing to put up with humiliation. Picture this. You're with friends, and one of them starts making jokes at your expense. They might think they're being funny, but you can feel the sting. Maybe they're poking fun at your goals, your appearance, or even your personal life. And the worst part, they brush it off, saying, "Oh, come on, I'm just kidding." But deep down, it doesn't feel like a joke. It feels like a jab. Stoicism would tell you that real friends don't need to belittle you to have a good time. You might respond calmly with, "I don't find these jokes funny," or "Let's keep the respect here." It's about setting boundaries that make it clear you're not okay with being humiliated. Humiliation can also come from those closest to us, sometimes disguised as tough love. Imagine a family member who always finds a way to highlight your shortcomings, especially in front of others. They might point out mistakes from your past or bring up embarrassing details, thinking it'll teach you a lesson or make you tougher. The Stoics would argue that this kind of treatment doesn't build character, it erodes it. As Marcus Aurelius noted, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. If someone's words or actions don't align with respect, it's okay to address it and let them know that you won't accept that kind of treatment. Work environments can also be breeding grounds for subtle or not so subtle forms of humiliation. Perhaps it's a boss who criticizes you in front of colleagues, pointing out every little mistake, or a co-worker who dismisses your ideas with a smirk. Over time, these moments can add up, leaving you feeling less confident and questioning your own worth. The Stoic response: hold on to your inner confidence. You might say, "I'd appreciate constructive feedback in private," or simply remind yourself that their behavior reflects more on them than on you. True respect isn't earned by tearing others down. Then there's the silent treatment, a form of humiliation that's more about what's not said. Maybe a friend or partner ignores you after a disagreement, acting as if you don't exist. The Stoics would see this as a way to assert power, to make you feel small and unimportant. But here's the thing, your worth isn't dependent on anyone's acknowledgement. You can choose to address the silent treatment, saying something like, Let's talk about this openly instead of shutting each other out. Or you can choose to ignore it, refusing to give them control over your emotions. Humiliation also has a way of seeping into romantic relationships, where a partner might criticize or demean you in subtle ways, like making negative comments about your looks or comparing you to others. This can be devastating, especially when it's coming from someone who's supposed to uplift and support you. But the Stoics believe that real love isn't about control or criticism. It's about respect and understanding. If someone's words make you feel less than, don't be afraid to set boundaries. You might say, "I expect kindness and respect in this relationship. If you can't provide that, we need to talk." It's about standing up for yourself, even when it's difficult. The truth is, humiliation only has the power you give it. When someone tries to make you feel small, they're usually reflecting their own insecurities. Stoicism teaches us to recognize this without internalizing it. If someone's words or actions are rooted in a need to control or belittle, that's a problem with them, not with you. Don't let their issues chip away at your sense of self-worth. Remember, you're under no obligation to tolerate disrespect. Life is too short to spend it feeling less than, especially around people who claim to care about you. True strength lies in knowing when to walk away from situations that don't serve you. And if you can't walk away, setting boundaries is the next best thing. Humiliation has no place in a life that's focused on growth, peace, and respect. So, here's the takeaway. Dignity is yours to keep. Don't let anyone take it from you, no matter how subtle or playful their attempts. Stand firm, hold on to your worth, and remember that respect is the foundation of every good relationship. When someone tries to make you feel less than, that's your cue to either speak up or step back. Protect your peace, because no one else will do it for you. 7. Lack of empathy. Empathy is the heart of any real connection. It's what makes us feel seen, heard, and understood. But when someone lacks empathy, when they just can't or won't see things from your perspective, it can feel isolating and frustrating. It's like trying to connect with a wall. And the Stoics would tell you that while you shouldn't rely on others for your happiness, you also deserve relationships that respect your emotions and perspectives. Imagine you're going through a tough time and you open up to someone close to you. Instead of listening, they brush it off with something like, "Everyone has problems," or they change the subject back to themselves. You're left feeling unheard, like your experiences don't matter. The Stoics would see this as a sign that the relationship lacks mutual respect. Marcus Aurelius said, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." This doesn't mean tolerating behavior that dismisses your feelings. It means understanding that if someone lacks empathy, it's more about their limitations than about your worth. Lack of empathy isn't always blatant. Sometimes it's subtle, like a friend who constantly downplays your experiences, telling you things like, "You're overreacting," or "It's not a big deal." Over time, these comments build up, leaving you second-guessing your emotions and feeling like you're asking too much by wanting to be understood. But here's the Stoic approach. While you can't force someone to empathize, you can decide how much energy you invest in that relationship. You might say, "I need my feelings to be respected, even if we don't see eye to eye," as a gentle but firm reminder of your boundaries. In the workplace, a lack of empathy can make for a tough environment. Picture a colleague or boss who disregards your challenges, expecting you to handle everything without considering your well-being. Maybe you're juggling multiple projects, and when you ask for support, you get a response like, We all have a lot going on. The Stoics would advise you to focus on what you can control. In this case, how you respond to that lack of empathy. Instead of internalizing it, you could calmly state your needs, saying something like, "I'm committed to doing my best work, but I need some help to make that happen." It's a way of advocating for yourself without expecting others to understand if they're unwilling to. Sometimes, lack of empathy shows up in friendships or family relationships, where someone might be emotionally unavailable, dismissive, or constantly preoccupied with their own issues. Perhaps you have a friend who only talks about their life, never asking about yours, or a family member who changes the topic when you try to share your feelings. The Stoic response here would be to acknowledge that you can't change how they behave, but you can adjust your expectations and choose where to invest your emotional energy. If someone can't show up for you emotionally, it may be time to re-evaluate the depth of that connection. Then there are those moments when people show a complete indifference to your successes or challenges. Let's say you've accomplished something you're proud of, and you excitedly share the news with a close friend, only to be met with a lukewarm response or a quick change of subject. The Stoics would remind you that true contentment comes from within, not from others' reactions. If someone doesn't value your achievements or support your struggles, it's a reflection of their limitations, not your worth. As Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Don't let someone's lack of empathy shape your reality. Empathy, like respect, is a two-way street. When someone lacks it, they're showing you that they can't meet you where you are emotionally. And while Stoicism teaches us to find strength within ourselves, it also reminds us that healthy relationships involve mutual understanding. If someone's indifference or lack of empathy constantly leaves you feeling unseen, consider setting boundaries around what you share with them. You could say, "I need support from those who care to listen," and shift your focus to relationships that offer the understanding you deserve. In the end, lack of empathy can be a powerful reminder to prioritize connections that respect your feelings and value your experiences. The Stoics would encourage you to invest your energy in relationships that add to your peace, not those that make you feel invisible. Life is too short to spend it feeling overlooked or dismissed. Seek out people who see you, appreciate you, and are willing to empathize with your journey. So here's the takeaway. Empathy is the foundation of true connection. When someone consistently fails to offer it, they're showing you the limits of their character, and it's okay to protect your peace by stepping back. Set boundaries, adjust your expectations, and remember that your emotions are valid, even if someone else can't see them. You deserve relationships that lift you up, not those that make you feel unseen. 8. Destructive criticism. Criticism can be a good thing when it's done right. Constructive feedback helps us grow, shows us where we can improve, and can even be motivating. But destructive criticism, that's a whole different story. Destructive criticism isn't about helping you get better, it's about tearing you down. And it usually says more about the critic than it does about you. The Stoics would tell you that while you can't control others' opinions, you can control what you let affect you. If someone's words are doing more harm than good, it might be time to take a step back. Picture this. You're excited about a project you're working on, and you share it with a friend or family member, hoping for a little encouragement. Instead, you get hit with sarcasm or negative comments like, "That's never going to work," or "Why are you even trying?" They might claim they're just being honest, but you're left feeling deflated. The Stoic approach here is to remind yourself that true honesty uplifts rather than breaks down. As Marcus Aurelius would say, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know the truth of who you are. Your worth isn't based on their opinions." Then there's the passive-aggressive type of criticism, the kind that's veiled as constructive feedback, but actually hits below the belt. Maybe a friend or partner makes comments like, "I guess you're just not that organized," or "Not everyone can be as disciplined as me." These statements are designed to make you feel less capable, like you're somehow lacking. Stoicism teaches us to value our inner perception over others' words. If someone's criticism consistently leaves you feeling unworthy or second-guessing yourself, that's not constructive, it's destructive. You could say something like, "I'm open to feedback, but I'd appreciate it if it were more supportive." Destructive criticism also shows up in professional settings, where a boss or co-worker might focus only on your mistakes while ignoring your achievements. Maybe you've put a lot of effort into a project, only to be criticized for one minor flaw while all your hard work goes unnoticed. The Stoics would advise you to detach from external praise or criticism, focusing instead on the quality of your own efforts. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." If someone's feedback isn't helpful, let it pass without letting it undermine your sense of accomplishment. In some cases, destructive criticism is rooted in jealousy or insecurity on the other person's part. Think about it. People who feel secure in themselves don't usually feel the need to tear others down. A friend who constantly critiques your lifestyle choices, career, or even your appearance might be dealing with their own insecurities. But remember, their issues don't have to become yours. The Stoic way is to stay grounded in your values, knowing that their criticism says more about them than it does about you. You might respond with something like, "Thanks for your input, but I'm confident in my path." Another form of destructive criticism comes from people who think they know what's best for you. Maybe they question your goals, saying things like, "Are you sure you can handle that?" Or, "I just don't want you to get disappointed." While they might claim they're looking out for you, these comments often reflect their own fears, not genuine concern for your well-being. Stoicism teaches that true strength lies in knowing your worth and not letting others' fears limit your potential. If someone's advice is discouraging, you might say, "I appreciate your concern, but I'm committed to this path." It's about respectfully standing firm in your own decisions. The truth is, criticism can be a valuable tool for growth, but only when it's given with good intentions. If someone's feedback consistently drains your confidence rather than builds it up, that's a sign it's more about control than improvement. The Stoics would remind you to evaluate the source. Seneca said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." Choose relationships and interactions that encourage you to be your best self, not those that make you feel small. At the end of the day, you have the right to set boundaries around criticism. You don't have to accept every opinion that comes your way. If someone's words are destructive, it's okay to protect your peace by letting their comments roll off your back. Life is too short to spend it feeling inadequate because of others' harsh words. Embrace constructive feedback, but let destructive criticism go. It's not worth your time or energy. So here's the takeaway. Criticism is only valuable when it's rooted in respect and growth. If someone's words don't help you become a better version of yourself, they're not worth dwelling on. Set boundaries, protect your self-worth, and remember that you deserve relationships that uplift, not ones that tear down. 9. Indifference. Indifference is one of those behaviors that can be harder to spot, but just as damaging as outright disrespect. When someone is indifferent to your feelings, experiences, or even your presence, it sends a clear message. They don't value you. And that message can be just as painful as criticism or rejection. The Stoics believed that while we shouldn't rely on others for validation, meaningful relationships require mutual care and attention. If someone shows indifference repeatedly, it might be time to rethink the relationship. Imagine this. You're sharing something personal with a friend or partner, something that matters deeply to you. Maybe it's a struggle you're going through, or a personal achievement you're proud of. Instead of listening or showing any interest, they brush it off or change the subject. They might say something like, "Everyone has problems," or just give a vague nod and move on. You're left feeling invisible, as if your experiences don't matter. According to Stoic philosophy, your self-worth shouldn't hinge on others' reactions, but that doesn't mean you have to tolerate being dismissed. As Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If someone's indifference is impacting your peace, it's okay to address it. Sometimes, indifference isn't as obvious as ignoring you outright. It might show up in subtle ways, like a friend who never asks about your life, always keeping conversations centered on themselves, or a partner who forgets important dates or details about your life, making you feel like an afterthought. Over time, this kind of indifference can be draining, leaving you feeling unseen. The Stoic response here is to calmly communicate your needs. You might say, "I feel valued when there's a balance in our conversations," or "It means a lot to me when you remember the things that are important to me." This approach gives them a chance to reflect on their behavior without creating conflict. In professional settings, indifference can look like a boss or co-worker who consistently overlooks your contributions or dismisses your input. Maybe you've put in hours of effort, but they barely acknowledge it, or worse, take your work for granted. The Stoics would encourage you to focus on what you can control. In this case, your own sense of accomplishment and pride in your work. Instead of relying on external validation, remind yourself of the value you bring. As Epictetus said, "Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for them as they are, and you will find serenity." Acknowledging your own worth is a powerful way to counteract others' indifference. Family relationships can also be a source of indifference. Maybe you have a family member who only reaches out when they need something, never showing genuine interest in your life. Or perhaps they dismiss your feelings, saying things like, "You're overthinking it," or "It's not that serious." Over time, these dismissive comments can make you feel as though your experiences aren't valid. The Stoic approach would be to set boundaries, both emotionally and in your expectations. You might choose to invest less energy in this relationship, focusing instead on connections that reciprocate care and attention. One of the hardest forms of indifference to deal with is when it comes from someone close, like a friend or partner who shows little interest in your joys or struggles. Maybe you've shared exciting news only to get a quick "that's nice" before they move on to their own topics. This lack of enthusiasm can hurt, especially when it's someone you deeply care about. The Stoics would remind you to not let others' reactions define your happiness. It's okay to address the issue by saying something like, "I love sharing things with you, but I need to feel that you're as invested in my life as I am in yours." It's a gentle way of setting a boundary that values mutual respect. Ultimately, relationships should add value to your life, not make you feel overlooked. If someone consistently shows indifference, they're signaling that they might not be invested in the relationship. The Stoics believed that true fulfillment comes from within, but they also encouraged us to build relationships based on mutual respect and care. If someone can't offer that, it's okay to step back and focus your energy on connections that do. As Seneca said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Here's the takeaway. Indifference is a form of disrespect that's often easy to miss, but hard to live with. You don't have to tolerate relationships that make you feel unseen or unvalued. Stand up for your worth by setting boundaries, addressing the issue directly, or, if necessary, investing your energy elsewhere. Remember, you deserve relationships that recognize and value you for who you are. 10. Jealousy. Jealousy is one of those feelings that can sneak into any relationship, but when it's unchecked, it can become toxic. A little jealousy here and there is normal, but when someone's jealousy turns into control, resentment, or constant questioning, it crosses a line. The Stoics would say that a healthy relationship isn't one where you feel guilty for living your life. Instead, it's one where both people are free to pursue their happiness without being held back by someone else's insecurities. Imagine you're in a friendship or a relationship where the other person always has an issue with your time and attention. Maybe a friend gets upset every time you hang out with someone else, or a partner questions you about who you're texting or where you're going. They might say things like, "Why do you even need to see them when you have me?" Or, "If you really cared about me, you wouldn't need anyone else." These comments can feel suffocating, making you feel guilty for doing things that bring you joy. The Stoics would remind you that love and friendship aren't about control, they're about freedom and respect. As Epictetus put it, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, don't change who you are to make others feel secure. Jealousy can also show up in more subtle ways. Maybe a friend always downplays your accomplishments, refusing to celebrate your wins. Instead of supporting you, they make comments like, "Must be nice to have that kind of luck," or "Some of us don't get handed everything on a silver platter." This kind of jealousy isn't just hurtful, it's dismissive. Stoicism teaches us to separate ourselves from others' insecurities. If someone can't support you because they're too caught up in comparing themselves, that's a reflection on them, not on you. You might respond calmly, "I've worked hard to get here and I'd appreciate your support." It's a way of setting a boundary without letting their jealousy bring you down. In romantic relationships, jealousy can quickly spiral into attempts to control or monitor your actions. Maybe a partner wants to know where you are every moment of the day, or questions every interaction you have with someone else. It might start as, "I just want to make sure you're okay," but soon you find yourself constantly justifying your every move. The Stoics would say that true love doesn't come with a need for constant surveillance. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Your peace shouldn't be compromised because someone else can't handle their insecurities. You might tell them, "I value trust in a relationship, and I need space to live my own life freely." Even in family relationships, jealousy can rear its head. Sometimes a family member might feel threatened by your achievements or your independence, and they'll make subtle comments to pull you back. Maybe they say things like, "Don't get too full of yourself," or "Remember where you came from." While they might frame it as keeping you grounded, It's often a way of dealing with their own insecurities. The Stoic response is to accept that their reactions are beyond your control, but you can control how much energy you invest in their opinions. Acknowledge their feelings if needed, but don't let their jealousy dictate your actions or dampen your enthusiasm. Then there's the possessive type of jealousy, where someone makes you feel like spending time with anyone else is a betrayal. This can be a friend who gets upset when you make new friends, or a partner who doesn't like you spending time with family. They might say things like, "I thought we were close," or "I just don't understand why you need them when you have me." This kind of jealousy is stifling, making you feel like you have to choose between people. The Stoics would say that real connection isn't about exclusivity, it's about freedom. You might gently remind them, "I care about you, but I also need space for other relationships in my life." Ultimately, jealousy reveals more about the person feeling it than about you. If someone truly respects and values you, they'll celebrate your growth and support your other connections without feeling threatened. The Stoics believed that true love is free from control and envy. As Seneca said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." A secure relationship doesn't come with demands or jealousy. It comes with mutual respect and understanding. Here's the takeaway. You don't need to shrink yourself to make others feel secure. Healthy relationships are built on trust, not jealousy. If someone's envy turns into control, constant questioning, or dismissiveness, it's okay to set boundaries. Choose connections that give you room to grow, not ones that limit you out of fear. You deserve relationships that respect your freedom and encourage your happiness. At the end of the day, life is too short to tolerate behaviors that drain your spirit, undermine your confidence, or compromise your peace. Each of these 10 behaviors, from disrespect and manipulation to indifference and jealousy, doesn't deserve a place in a life grounded in self-respect and purpose. The Stoics taught us that while we can't control how others act, we can choose how we respond. Setting boundaries isn't about pushing people away. It's about protecting your dignity and building relationships that truly support your growth. Imagine your life as a garden with respect, empathy, trust, and freedom as the plants you're nurturing. But if you keep allowing weeds like dishonesty, destructive criticism, or indifference to take root, they'll soon choke out the very things that make you flourish. By setting boundaries around these behaviors, you're giving yourself the space to grow and thrive. Remember, every time you stand up for yourself, you're choosing to honor your worth. It takes courage to say enough when someone oversteps or treats you poorly. But each boundary you set is a step toward a life that values who you are and where you're headed. Life is filled with enough challenges. You don't need to add people who bring negativity or drain your energy. Surround yourself with those who see your value and respect your boundaries. So as you go forward, keep these lessons close. Don't settle for relationships that make you feel small, and don't accept behaviors that go against your values. Whether it's a friend, family member, co-worker, or partner, let people know where the line is, and if they can't respect it, don't be afraid to walk away. Protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's essential. If this episode resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Here on Stoic Saga, we're all about building a community that values growth, wisdom, and strength. Until next time, stay true to yourself, stay grounded, and remember, you're worthy of a life filled with respect, empathy, and positive connections.